Jim was a friend, but also a mentor to me and to many of the people who sit around me in this House. In his incredible life, Jim gave so much to his community, to Ontario, to Canada, and to his party and to his family. Jim was not a small man, neither in stature nor in personality. And it's no wonder he needed such a large frame to house his giant heart and to carry the weight of his immense sense of responsibility. For Jim tackled life with such purpose and compassion. He accomplished so much in one lifetime. He really had the strength of many men. It was men like Jim that helped create the current nostalgia for the past that many Ontarians hold. We often look back with fond memories to those days when hard work, ambition, integrity, individual responsibility were the cornerstones of our prosperity. Of course, it is not that black and white. Critical study reveals that our past had its fair share of injustice, of greed, of poverty, and of all the warts that we would rather not see. But the collective myths and the stereotypes of history exist for a reason. They exist not only because we want to forget the negatives, but because we want to celebrate the positives. They exist because of men like Jim Snow, who defined achievement, who found that perfect balance between private and public life, who rose to prominence without hurting anyone along the way, except, of course, for his political opponents. To accomplish so much while remaining generous, honest, and virtuous, that is the definition of a life well lived. As a farmer, as a businessman, as a politician, a pilot, a philanthropist, a family man, a friend, a neighbour, Jim sought results and got them. I think that his greatest legacy, results for those he served. As the Minister of Transportation especially, Jim set the bar high. And I should point out that the James Snow Parkway, which was named during the period of time when Jim Snow was the Minister of Transportation, and I'd point out that that is a regional road, and it was named to Jim in honour of his service to Ontario. It was somewhat controversial at the time, people wondering how the Minister of Transportation could have a road named after him and sign such on the 401. In 9 years, Jim set the bar high. In 9 years, he helped build so many of those roads, railways, airports and bridges that were essential for economic success. He even rode his motorcycle all over those highways to make sure that they were in good shape. He was really involved in those projects. He wasn't just the figurehead of that very important ministry, the Minister of Transportation, but he would actually sit down with the designers, the engineers, the planners, and all levels of the bureaucracy to make sure the projects were perfect. And it's been said that Jim was perhaps the last Minister of Transportation to actually run the ministry, although he had a great asset in Howard Gilbert, his Deputy Minister. In that sense, Jim was so much more than a politician during his time at Queen's Park. He was a true servant of the people of Ontario and an example for all current and future members of this legislature. He also serves as an example in the way that he conducted himself in this chamber and in the media. Jim was not one to mince words. He avoided the manipulation and wordplay that is all too common in politics these days. He said what he meant, and he meant what he said. Sometimes his frankness was offensive to those on the receiving end, but he always chose truth over deceit and honesty over expediency. In this regard, we all should take note and strive to do better. Beyond his day-to-day work as minister, Jim was one of the best representatives this province ever had. He cared so deeply for all his constituents, despite any political affiliations or critical perspectives. Often the very demanding work of ministers keeps them from their constituency, but not so with Jim. I was one of those constituents back when I would call his office from time to time needing information, and every time Jim would call me back personally the same day. All members of the House know how impressive that is. These days we get so many emails that we often need a day or two and the help of our staff, help of our many staff, to keep up. But even back then, Jim was one of a kind when it came to true democratic representation. To make up for his time away from the office, he gave out his home phone number so he could stay in touch with the people in his riding. That made his wife, Barb, a de facto volunteer constituency assistant. But I'm sure she didn't mind too much, for Barb, like Jim, is the epitome of selflessness and determination. Like Jim, she cares deeply for her community, and the people of Halton owe her many thanks indeed. It was often said at election time that you had to vote for Jim because you wanted Barb to continue doing her role in the constituency. After his long political career, Jim returned to private life and succeeded there as much as he did here. In his final years, he gave back so much to the land that gave him life, including a 2006 donation of $500,000 to the Milton Hospital for a CT scanner, and a gift of his own home and farm to the Salvation Army. These acts of goodness truly reveal the vast generosity and compassion that Jim held in his wonderful heart. In closing, I would like to speak to Jim's best accomplishments, his family. For all the current and past members of the PC party who knew Jim, they got a taste of what family meant to this man. He treated our party like his extended family, always ready to host, to give advice, and to lend a helping hand. To you, his family, I say thank you. Thank you for letting us all, the whole province, share your husband, your father, and your grandfather. Thank you for helping shape Jim into the great man he became. Thank you for taking constituency calls late into the night. But most of all, thank you for supporting him and, in turn, supporting us, for we are richer because of him now and forever. Thank you.